Hi everyone, in this video I want to talk about harmonics and specifically how we can use harmonics for interesting sound design and even more specific how we can use it for FM synthesis in Serum. So first, to give you a general overview, what are harmonics? Well, I think most of you guys are familiar with this, but I have a sound here in Iris, which is a trombone note, and if we play that just as it is without any processing, we can see in our EQ here that we get all these different spikes, right? We're familiar with EQing. So all these spikes are the harmonics. And in Iris here, they're represented as these bright white lines. And these represent different tones. Now, every instrument has a different set of harmonics. They will work the same, but some of them will be louder than others. So for example, this is a trombone, and you can see that they're quite static. So the harmonics, they stay present throughout the sound. But then we also have a guitar here where you can see that it has lots more of these high harmonics, but they die away or they fade out more quickly. So basically the way this spectral overview works is the brighter a color, the louder the sound. So you can see that here the brightness stops and then the brighter harmonics fade away. And we can see the same thing in an equalizer. If we play this, we should see that it starts with some bright high frequencies and then those fade away to leave mostly the lower harmonics. So you can see that these tones here sustain more, and you can use this knowledge to create realistic guitar-like effects with FM synthesis. You can make sure that the higher partials, they fade away more quickly. Now, all of these harmonics, they have a different note, and the way that works is, let's say hypothetically the first harmonic is 100 hertz. That would make the second one 200 hertz, which would be an octave higher, and the third one 300, 400, etc. But all of these frequencies, they correspond to different tones. So if we take a look at that real quick, we can hear and see that this lowest harmonic, this is the root of the note, which should be a C in this case. And then if we go one harmonic higher, we get another C. But it's an octave higher, as you can see here as well. So together they sound like this. So each of these harmonics by themselves, they just sound like sine waves because they're a very pure frequency, but together they make up the sound of our instrument. Here's the third one, which should be a fifth. So in other words, a G. And then we get another octave here. And then if we zoom in a little bit, we get a major third here, which should be an E. So this is already interesting because we can sort of highlight different tones or different notes in our sound. So we can take, for example, the fundamental, and then we have the fifth and we have the third. This basically creates a major chord in our sound. So we have, let's see, we have a C here, then we have a G here, and then we have an E here. So that's all pretty fun, but I want to take a look at this in the context of FM synthesis. So let's flip over to Serum here. And in Serum, I already did a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna initialize all of that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our main oscillator here. We can clear all of this stuff right here, and then we can draw one harmonic. So here at the top view of Serum, we can actually draw the harmonics, and you can see the lighter colored bins, as they call them, are integer or multiples of the fundamental frequency. So for example, these are all the same notes. So this would be a C, this would be a C, here another C, here another C, here another, and here another. You can see that it grows exponentially. So let's listen to just the first harmonic, right? Just a sine wave. Then we can take the second one, which should be another sine wave, an octave higher, another C. Then here we get the this would be a fifth, so a G, and then another C. So all of this works the same with real instruments, with synthesis, harmonics. They're always the same frequency added over and over again. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a patch that uses harmonics as a source for FM synthesis, because FM synthesis, it's a very, very technical, mathematical kind of synthesis by nature. This is also why FM8 works with ratios rather than with actual semitones. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a harmonic series. So to do that, we're just going to create one harmonic here in this first bin. Then we're creating a new wave, and we'll create a second harmonic. And then again, we duplicate that wave, and then we draw in our third harmonic. So you can see that the frequency doubles, right, for each of these. So we have now 3 waves in our wavetable. I'll make these a little bit louder. It's not really behaving very well. All right, let's try to make 6 maybe. So here would be our 4th harmonic. We duplicate this again, 5th, and one last one, 6. All right, so now we have a harmonic series which we can scan through using the wavetable position. So let's actually set an LFO up to control this, and we'll set it to half a bar. We should get a little bit of a melody. Basically, right now it's arpeggiating a major chord, because those are the harmonics that we have. Now, this is already interesting if you use this with a distortion, for example. Distortion is very sensitive to frequency changes and amplitude changes. So this can be an interesting way to start your sound design process. So that's all fun, but I don't want to actually listen to this. I want to send this to another oscillator. So what we'll do, first I'll switch off the distortion right here, and then we'll go into the wavetable editor again, but this time we're going to create a crossfade between these tables, so that right now you can hear that it steps to the new wave. We want to fade to the new wave. So if we set that up, it should sound a lot smoother. Right, we can do a regular crossfade or a spectral crossfade, which tries to resynthesize the waves in between. Can sound a little bit smoother, but I want to go with the regular crossfade for now. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to enable oscillator B. Let's use a sine wave there as well, or maybe a triangle would be nice as well. Let's do a triangle, not this one. Let's get one that's in phase. All right, and now we're gonna lower the output for oscillator A, and instead we're gonna choose a FM from A for oscillator B right here. So now what's happening, the frequency of oscillator A is modulating the frequency of oscillator B, and that's what we hear. We don't hear oscillator A itself. And then when we experiment with the pitch, we can get some quite interesting results here. So right now we're modulating these oscillator partials. We can set that a little bit slower, and we could also modulate the FM amount. So at this point, it becomes interesting to experiment with the tuning. So octaves down, octaves up, you can try fifths. So this one, 7 semitones up. You can try one of them really low and the other one high, or the other one high and the other one low. You can create some pretty nasty sounds with this, but we can also create very beautiful sounds with this, because we have great control over the texture, and that is something that FM synthesis is great at. It's creating texture. So one thing we can do is we can merge these notes together to give us one long note, and then we can try to make a pad out of this. So let's take envelope 1, let's give it a slow attack, let's give it a long release, something like this, can be even a little bit longer, and then we'll set our LFOs to be rather slow, and then let's see what this sounds like by itself. So we can do something like this. We can, of course, add a little bit of reverb to that if we want to make a pad. But there's some other nice options here as well. So right now we're doing FM synthesis. We can also do AM, which stands for amplitude modulation. In this case, the amplitude of oscillator A is modulating the amplitude or level of oscillator B. Gives for quite a different sound. So the nice thing with this is that you can hear that if we set this to the very highest position, we get this sort of new tone in our sound. Our sound is still a C, but it gets almost a chord-like quality. And in production, this can be very nice because we can use that to create more tension or transitions. So one thing that we can do here is we can set up a macro to control the wave stable position for us. And we can call that timbre, and we can set up another macro to control the AM amount. We can call that timbre 2, I guess. All right, and then let's, rather than having this long note, let's actually create a chord in here. Do a C minor chord, which would be interesting because we have that major harmonic. And then we'll duplicate this a couple of times. Just create a small progression here. Be interesting to control the detuning as well. Let's call that detune. And one more thing is, right now oscillator B, this is kind of boring, right? We only have one triangle wave. Of course we could do something more interesting with the harmonics there as well. We could also choose a sine wave here, sounds roughly the same, and then we can increase just the harmonics of that, maybe. Yeah, let's try that. So we'll create a couple more wavetables, or actually this is easier. One thing we can do is we can say remove current index. Oh, that didn't work. We need to say remove multi-selection. there. And then we can create one wave with just one partial, and then we can create another one with multiple, something like that. And then we can just morph these, morph crossfade. So now we can go from a dollar to a little bit of a brighter sound. And then lastly, let's add a little bit of vibrato to this sound, a little bit of a longer release. For vibrato, we also choose a regular sine wave LFO, and we set that to about 6 to 7 hertz, and we can let that fade in a little bit. And if we want to get one more variation in there, we can also completely remove this. Let's see, remove the crossfade. That's not the right one. Remove morph tables. Then we can create a new saw in here. And then we can morph these again. And then we can sort them to have the, so that the peak, I think this one, so the peak is at the beginning. So it goes from bright to dollar. Actually, let's reverse that. So it goes from dull to bright. All right, so now with the wavetable position knob, we should have even more colors. Right, so hopefully that gives you some cool ideas to start experimenting with. This is very interesting with FM8 as well. It's interesting within Iris. It's interesting with additive synthesis in general, such as alchemy. So hopefully this gives you some ideas there. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.